So we're backstage here with NF before the big show, Bobby Tarantino, of course, the tour. How excited are you, NF? Or Nate? I don't know what I should call you.
No, Nate's fine.
Okay,
yes.
Nate.
Super excited. I mean, we've only done 2 shows so far, but it's like a whole new experience for me, and I'm super thankful to be able to be on the road and play in front of this many people. I haven't really done a lot of shows in like amphitheaters and stuff
Like
that.
20,000 people?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first show was like 14,000, and it's like, you know, even shows at 8,000, 10,000, it's like, it's pretty awesome. A lot of fans coming out, but also like a lot of new fans that have never heard of me.
Yeah.
That are his fans, so it's cool.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, I actually like playing shows in front of people that don't like know me. I don't know, it just makes me feel like
You have something to prove, or what do you feel? Yeah.
It's like motivating to do that for me personally. It's like, and the pressure's like, there's like less pressure because you're like, everyone's staring at you, so there's
right. I feel like there's like huge pressure.
But I'm saying, like, when you're a headliner, like, which is mostly what I do is my own shows.
Yeah.
It's a lot more like overwhelming because everyone knows everything that you're saying and
everything
that you're doing, and you're just like, oh man.
Have you ever forgotten any words like at one of your shows?
All the time. Yeah.
And the crowd helps you out. The crowd sings the songs, and you're like, okay, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, it helps, but like, especially being a rapper, it's like every night. I mean, when you're doing like 17 or 18 songs, like on my own tours, that's so many words to memorize, and so it's like it's so easy to like forget a word, and then of course when you forget one word, then you're like, oh crap, I can't. Where am I?
Especially because you rap pretty fast, especially your intros.
Yeah.
And can I just say, in Perception, your outro for me was like bananas.
Oh, thank you.
The outro, I mean, I know people always talk about your intros, but for me, the outro on Perception.
My favorite song I've ever written to date, I think, is Intro 3. For me personally.
For Perception.
Yeah.
Why would you say that? Why?
Just because, like, I spent a lot of time on it trying to, like, paint a picture. Like, my music is very, like, storytelling, like, or whatever. A lot of artists are, like, they'll go heavy on like the metaphors and stuff like that, which I do that too, but kind of in a different way. I think my music is very visual. When you hear something, you can kind of picture your own version of whatever I'm saying, which I think music is powerful in that way anyways. But really, I think it was just like, it felt like another chapter to a story.
Yeah.
And my experience recording that was like one of the coolest, like, it was like an emotional experience for me. Like, a lot of people maybe wouldn't listen to it and feel emotional maybe, but for me it was like, I had a weird experience when I was recording that. I was like shaking and stuff.
Really?
Isn't it crazy how music can do that to you sometimes?
Oh yeah.
I always talk about that, how people perform and sometimes the emotion catches up to you in the middle of a song.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
like, How Could You Leave Us would probably be one of those.
Oh yeah, that recording process was like the most depressing, but it was therapeutic as well.
Right.
Because there's a lot of like the last minute of that song or whatever is just me talking
and crying,
yeah.
Right.
And like, I remember having my buddy leave the room during that part, and I was just like, just loop it for like 5 minutes and just let me like talk, you know. And that was like so sad because it was like really awkward because we listened back through to pick,
and it was painful to listen. I'm
sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's just like a lot of little things that people wouldn't have like understood, I guess. Like, I tried to pick the things out that maybe people would relate to but were important to me as well.
Right.
But there was moments like, you know, it was sad for me to listen to because I was like crying about like, my mom bought me this pair of pants when I was little, when I was a kid, and I was like so excited about it, and I was like talking about that on that song, and it's like, that doesn't really make sense to keep in there, but like, that's what I mean. It was therapeutic to like really talk out, like, because a lot of times we don't do that. Like, we might feel an emotion or whatever, but we don't really like walk through the emotion. That's why therapy, you know, can be
the therapy
important.
session was amazing.
And after do you think more artists need to do that with music, add emotion to it instead of just putting lyrics on tape and really put the emotions into the music?
What do you mean? What are you asking?
Do you think more artists need to do what you do, like put more emotions into their music, make it more emotional?
Do I think more artists should put emotion in their music? No, I mean, for me, it's like what everyone else does is kind of like whatever. Like, for me personally, that's just been a lot of artists put emotion into music, but for me, that's always kind of been like a place for me to go. And I actually learn a lot about myself from that process. Like, I'll listen back to songs from my first album and be like, when Mansion came out, and I'll be like, man, it's nuts. Like, yes, I painted this picture and the song was good or whatever, but like when there are feelings that you're actually feeling, I describe it to people as being like a diary. So if you were like writing a diary right now about like what you're experiencing in your life, or if you're feeling depression or whatever, and what that's causing you to feel or whatever, and you were writing all that down, and then 2 years later you went back and read it.
And you're different now, 2 years later.
I mean, I still experience a lot of the same things, so sometimes it's encouraging because you're like, I feel like I've gotten better in this area. But then sometimes it's discouraging because you're like, I feel exactly the same way I felt 2 years ago, and here's a documented song about that. You know what I mean?
I kind of feel when you, like, I lost my mom too, and my dad just a year and a half ago. So when you get that loss, I don't think that ever changes. And when people say time will help, it's ridiculous to even think that time will help you.
Yeah.
And it's funny because these earrings my mom gave me, so like, there are certain things that are triggers for you. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. I don't think, because I've had interviews where I like had to leave the interview because some interviews I can talk about my mom, sometimes I can't. It just depends on where your headspace goes to. But
it took me 5 years to be able to talk about my mom without crying.
Yeah.
5 years.
No, it's an insane experience.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people have lost people and lost people in different ways. Some people, like when you listen to How Could You Leave Us, you hear like it sounds angry, but it also sounds just like there's so much hurt.
Oh yeah.
And so it's not like an I hate you thing, but it's like,
but how could you?
Important? Yeah, like just the
you?
questions you have. But even now, since that song, which I don't know if that was like a year and a half ago, 2 years maybe, that came out. As I grow as a person and like as an adult and stuff and mature more, I start to have more compassion for my mom, just because like I don't know what it's like to be a drug addict. Like I do have an addictive personality, but I'm not like addicted to drugs. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
but you're
so,
a perfectionist, I think, more than anything.
Yeah.
Like I think that's your sort of addiction.
Yeah, totally. And but I look at it now, and I look at her situation and like how she grew up and how she was taught, and her experiences, her personal experiences.
Yeah.
And I look at all my personal experiences and how they shape me into the person in positive but also negative ways. And so I just have a lot more as I get older compassion for her, because I was never really open enough or old enough to have that mature conversation with her where she could have probably sat me down and been like, hey, I experienced this when I was younger and I don't know how to get out of this cycle, whatever. You know what I mean? When she tried to have that conversation with me, or somewhat of a conversation, I was too young and was just like, hey, like, no, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Or I felt defensive for my dad or whatever. You
Yeah.
know? And so it was like, so that's just a regret I have looking back. Like, man, I wish I was
older.
My 27-year-old mind now is like, I could sit down with my mom and be like, look, hey.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you experienced this or whatever. Here's what I experienced, and talk about it. But that's just part of life, you know. It's
part of the whole growth experience and part of like the whole grief experience too, you know.
Well, yeah, mine was growing up. My parents divorced when I was young, and then we lived with my mom for a while, and then there was kind of like a weird situation going on there. So
with the stepdad, right?
No, with the with one of her boyfriends.
Oh, okay.
She had like a lot of weird boyfriends. And so we got taken out of that situation basically, and then we kind of had visitation rights. And so like growing up, that was super awkward and weird because you're like, you don't understand. You're just like, I remember like sitting in a room and some lady was like watching us and taking notes and stuff while we were
you rap about that.
Yeah, in the song. Yeah. And so it's like just these little like vivid things as a kid that I remember. And there was years where I didn't really have a relationship with my mom, and then I started to have a relationship with my mom again, somewhat of a relationship. And then with that happening, it was just like
devastating.
I'll never forget that day, but I'm just also trying to learn how to like, when I put that song out, it was so therapeutic for me. And I just remember my producer asking me and saying, hey, like, are you sure you want to do this or whatever? And I was just like, yeah, I think it'll be relatable to people. I never knew it would get like to that level or whatever, but it was so therapeutic to me. I was like,
I know
who
you
cares?
have your fans are so amazing. I mean, have you
They're
heard a lot
awesome.
of stories? Like, have people come up to you saying, "Oh my God, I relate to you so much because of what you've gone through"?
Oh yeah, all the time. Like sometimes it's overwhelming, you know. I
yeah.
struggle with like the thing that's happened to me lately that I'm trying to maneuver around is like a lot of my life I've like put out anger towards other people or what they've done to me or whatever. But like in the last few years, I really started struggling with like hatred towards myself. And so like that's a whole different like thing you have to tackle, because sometimes it's easier to be like, you know, how could you do this to me or like whatever, and then you start having compassion for other people. But when you can't have it for yourself, then it's like you start developing a self-hatred of like, when I'm hearing every single day, you're the best, or like you're awesome, or you changed my life and all these things, but I don't feel good about myself, it almost makes me feel like a fake person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
when you look in the mirror, you see.
Yeah,
you see something
I don't
different.
see like what you see. So, you know, it'd be like someone being like, this sounds like a dumb example, but if you were like, if you hated how your hair looked and every day someone came, and 100 people in VIP every day were like, your hair's awesome. Your hair's awesome. And it's like every day you're thinking, like, that's kind of a dumb example.
No, but I
it's just like,
understand. You could get it.
It's like, for me, my first tour of this year, I literally had like a mental break. Like, I was so
overwhelmed by it all.
so overwhelmed and so exhausted, and I just started doing radio for the first time, and so I was doing interviews every day, and performing every day on like my own tour, and the crowds were getting a lot bigger, and it's just like,
how do you deal with success? Because it's about success, but
I think it's giving me a lot of content for my next album, but also it's like going through it and experiencing it, like it's hard to explain, like, and there's not, you know, I'm trying to like actually reach out to people that experienced what I've experienced.
Logic, it would be a great one.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and he also, when I talked to him about the 1-800 song, because that helped me through my dad's death, like, he didn't want to hear that either. Like, he doesn't, it's very overwhelming. It was overwhelming for him to be like, I just wrote it, you know, I didn't know it was going to have this whole meaning on its own.
Well, and then what happens to me as well is I put guilt on myself sometimes, because I'm like, because people had experienced so much worse than me. Like, someone will say a story, and everyone has their own definition of what was worse and what was better, but I'll hear stories that are just like, people lost both their parents, they were abused this way, and I'm just like, it's overwhelming, man, but it also encourages me to know that people can sit and listen to my music. Music was such an important thing for me growing up.
I love your music. I love Wait. I love Mansion a lot.
What made you decide to pick up a pen and write these lyrics? What defining moment in your life? Who was it? Somebody who inspired you? Was it a moment? What made you say, I'm going to write this down and let the world know?
I think my life is my biggest inspiration, just my experiences, but I became a huge Eminem fan pretty young, and I think that was like the first time that I really experienced music that, even if I didn't relate to everything that was being said,
about emotion,
but I could
Eminem,
feel something.
Talk about it.
Yeah, I could feel, like, I remember when I listened to like The Way I Am for the first time on the Marshall Mathers LP, and I'd never really felt that, like, it just felt so real and intense to me.
I think Stan was the record for me.
Stan for me too.
Oh my God! I'm like, oh man.
She's in the trunk. What are you doing? What?
Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, no, that song, The Way I Am, was like, you know, I've had a lot of anger issues and things like that, and so that song was so aggressive, and just like the lyrics too, you could tell were coming from this like place, and like he was just laying it out there. And so when I heard that, I was like, I think it encouraged me to be like, I love listening to music, and I've never felt this powerful and experienced listening, so I wonder what, like, you know, it wasn't like some deep thought at that time in my life, but it was like, you know, looking back, I'm just like, man, it was like the experience that I have writing. Like I said with Intro 3, I've like, kind of like, you know, my heart was like pounding when I was recording that song, and it was like, I wish people could like experience, I mean, I'm sure they do sometimes when they listen, but when I was just recording that, man, I was just like,
was something.
It was awesome. Like
That's
I
cool.
don't know how to describe it, but me and my producer, he's like one of my best friends. We were both like getting like chills and stuff. It's
I
just
feel
so
that about-
like
yeah.
it's such a real experience, and I think music is like the most powerful thing.
Do you ever write a lyric down and be like, maybe I shouldn't let this one out. Maybe I shouldn't let the world know about this. Because your life is so real. Your songs are so real.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things that I don't feel like the whole world needs to know that I've experienced or whatever. But I don't feel like I go down that path very much in writing just because I already know that.
You already know that, yeah.
So I am a perfectionist when I write. And I've talked about this in a million interviews, but the struggle with me is my perfectionism makes me really good at what I do. Because I'm constantly working and constantly like, how do I make this better? Or I could have done this better. Next time I need to make sure I do this better. But it also makes me not experience any joy or happiness because I'm just constantly like, this is not good enough. You know,
Right.
this will never be good enough. This is, you know what I mean?
No joy in your craft, though. But
Yeah. Well, I have moments. One of my friends told me one time that like happiness is a moment and joy is like something you carry around with you. And I don't really like experience a lot of that, and part of it's because of my perfectionism and like, but it's hard because I don't know how to find the balance of like, I don't want to lose that.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm like, oh, am I not going to be as hard of a worker? What am I going to do?
Right.
But then at the same time, I'm like, but it doesn't let me like enjoy anything. So then it's just like, this part of life, I think, and like.
are you
know,
writing all the time? Like, are you writing new music now for
Yeah.
the next album?
Yeah, no, I'm always like trying to figure out, you know, how do I take something a step further, but not, you know, it gets so when you start writing music and like a couple hundred people are hearing your music, it's so different. When you start writing music and, you know, like,
Yeah.
I think
Can't put a
Let You
number
Down
on it.
has like 600 million or 500 million, whatever, streams on it.
And
that's
Lie,
just
too.
streams. Yeah, like
Lie is amazing.
that's just streams. So it's like, you know, and then radio's playing it, and it's like millions of people are hearing something. It's kind of like that's where it gets overwhelming too,
Yeah.
because everything you say
gotta
can be
be-
picked apart and
Yeah.
like, so I'm just, you know, I don't really like to let that alter my stuff anyways. I just kind of do what I want to do anyways. But it does pop in your head because you're realizing, like, you know, if I said something really personal now compared to 3 years ago,
Yeah.
like hundreds of millions of people are going to hear it instead of like
It's funny that you don't really see it, like,
Because it's just us right now. You don't realize
Yeah,
how
it's so
powerful
funny.
the music is. Right now,
but
it's
it's
just
so
us.
it is so
You know?
powerful.
Yeah.
Your real music, you have the tattoo on there.
Yeah.
And your merch is so incredible. Like,
Thank you.
It's really like is do you own that, or does
Yeah, no, I have my fiance runs my online store.
Congratulations, by the way. I follow
Thank
her.
you.
Don't think I'm creepy or anything, but I love Bridget. I
No,
follow
she's
her.
awesome.
Yeah, no, I follow her. She's like in mad shape. She's crazy.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Healthy and crazy. And congratulations. I think that's
Thank
great that
you.
there's a happy part of your life.
Yeah,
you know?
no, she runs the online store. She actually started it for me like 3 years ago.
Did she?
Yeah, she lived in Seattle at the time, and I was just sending her like a little box of merch. We do like $150, $200 a month or something. Like, so it's
But now
awesome
it's
now.
like-
Yeah.
So you own all that, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and then she, and then I have a lot of like friends that I work with. Like, my friend Danielle's on the road, and then another one of my friends is coming out. But you know, they run merch on the road, and I order merch through them. And then my buddy and I, we design all the stuff.
It's really
And then
cool.
my video guy, we do all the videos together. And then my friends, my
You
producers.
guys have
so
been
it's
together
like-
for a long time then. Your crew, your team.
Yeah, quite a bit. From the beginning, my video guy and I have been, since my first album pretty much, we've like worked together. My producer, same thing. I got signed. Him and I both like got signed at the same time. So yeah, man, that's how I like to work. Once I find people that
That's cool.
because I don't really like trust people in general, and especially in like this industry. But once I find people I feel like I can trust or get me, I'm super hands-on. So I don't want a video person that's not gonna let me sit in a session and help edit. because I like to do that. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I can't have my hands in the vision, then it's like I don't have to do everything, but I do want to be involved. That's why the brand and everything is so. A couple of years ago, when I kind of figured out the lane I wanted to go in, it's like I just want to make sure everything feels that way.
Did you start out wanting to be signed to a record label, or did you just want to put music out, whether it be social networking or whether the streaming? Did you want this deal?
I mean, at that point in my life, I definitely wanted to get signed. I was so broke, and I also like I was working in a normal job. I had like a situation, and then that I can't really go into, but then I went back to work, and even when I signed my deal, I stayed working my like normal job.
You didn't deliver pizzas, did you?
No.
But he had an old Volvo, right? That broke down.
Oh yeah.
You should get a new Volvo, and you should be like Matt McConaughey and how he does the whole Cadillac thing. Like.
No, I was.
We talked before. What did he say? We talked in the interview.
Yeah, we did. We talked to you before, like in December, about
Oh,
your jobs.
doing electrical work.
Yeah. Listen, I have some contract stuff that you can do for me if you need some extra cash on the side.
I'm
there.
done with that.
Nate.
No, man.
He's done.
Sometimes I like. I wouldn't say I miss it. Like I want to go back and do it for sure. But like, I started liking doing that kind of work actually. But I stayed working at my job months after I signed. I remember the label was like, they were like, hey, like we signed you, like, are you gonna like keep working your job? And I was like, yeah.
I'm gonna keep
like,
working
until I start seeing like some money or whatever. I'm
so
like,
you tell me I got a show when? Okay, I got to call.
Yeah,
I got to call.
well, no,
out.
I was like, they're like, hey, can we do a conference call at like 11:30? I'm like, I gotta ask my boss. I don't know. You know?
I'm so happy for your success. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the darkness that hits, because we just lost Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain, which destroyed me. And then if you look at like Chris Cornell from Soundgarden and Chester from Linkin Park and even Avicii, like their darkness was so dark. Like, how do you, when the darkness does hit, how do you rise out of that? Like, how do you, because your music can get you, like,
Yeah.
it can. Do you ever feel that dark, or have you?
Oh, for sure. Like my first tour this year, like I was telling you, that was like the darkest that I'd ever gotten. Like, 'cause I'd never really experienced that much depression, or like, because I've experienced depression, but like I wouldn't say like, because people ask me about like the suicide thing or whatever. You know, like when the Chester thing happened.
Destroyed me.
Yeah, he was like a tortured person, and like I watched an interview that I thought was like, he was kind of super open about his emotions and stuff, and so it kind of reminded me of me. I don't know that much about him or whatever, and I don't really watch the news and stuff, but like, I don't know, seeing that I kind of like related to it, and it was sad just because when you do feel like a tortured, this music that everyone loves is coming from like a person who's like really, you know, like all the songs people love from him, like Numb and you know, all that stuff that were so real emotions.
It's so true.
And it's the same thing with me. So it's awesome to see everybody relate, but I'm also trying to figure out how
to balance it.
Yeah, like I want to come out of that place, but I also am like, you know, on Outro I talk about it a little bit, just being like, if I don't write music that's as emotional, this problem that I have has got me where I am. Like, that's why I love
that's
intro.
The jail thing.
Yeah, it's like intro 3 is like fear talking to me and being like, you wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for me. And that's a true statement, because my fears and my pain and all these things helped me write songs that became relatable to people, that escalated my career.
Right.
And so,
but the outro you said at the end, you're home, you know. Yeah. Which.
That was more of just like a, I'm back.
Yeah.
Like, here's my third album. But I do think Perception started to take, I'm trying to take a turn. I'm trying to like start moving in a direction where I feel like I'm getting better. It's just things get a lot worse before they get better, and that's what I've experienced.
So beautiful. I mean, so special. That song is.
Yeah, but as far as like coming out of the dark thing, it's a process. Like, I'm still trying to learn myself. I'm honestly like going to therapy myself, like trying to get my mental health in a good place, just because the first tour this year was just not a safe good place for me. You know what I mean? Like,
and even with
I didn't want to
and
like
love like that,
yeah, like
it's still
well,
hard.
and it's stressful for her because
Yeah.
then she's like watching you go through that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like I've never been like a person that's like I want to end my life, but on that tour I was thinking like, would it be easier? And I think that's where it starts to spiral down for
Right.
people, where you're like, man, I feel so hopeless that if I wasn't alive, would I feel more relief? And then that's when it gets like scary. You know
Well,
what
I'm
I mean?
glad you're in therapy then,
Yeah.
because I
And
want
I
more
haven't-
music from you. And
Yeah,
or
well,
Nate.
and that's just like, that's the hard thing.
Mm-hmm.
We all have something in our lives that's like, writing music is a relief for me. But when I'm not writing music, or I don't write music for a while, and I have no relief, because I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't do anything that gives me what some people, you know, a lot of people that go to alcohol and go to things, they get a relief from it.
Or
you
do
know?
sports? Do you do sports? Do you?
I used to play basketball, but I probably should work out more because I've heard that's like really good.
Or meditate? Or
I've
or
started.
Fish.
I mean, it's just is it?
No, I like fishing.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, we
I'm
like
just
it.
saying, it's like you're out in the
No, I
middle
like
of nowhere,
that.
and he fishes a lot.
I love
Buck
fishing.
fishes
Oh,
a
man,
lot.
I'm an angler. I call myself an angler.
No, I love fishing, but no, I've done some. I used to think that stuff was so stupid, like meditating and stuff.
No!
Yeah, I thought that was so dumb. Like
No.
I remember my fiance saying to me, like, maybe you should do this or do that, and I was like, I'm not gonna sit in a room with my legs crossed and like hum.
Woosah.
You don't even have to do it
No,
that way.
I know. I
You
didn't
know
know
what I
that.
mean? No,
But we
it's
all
like,
think that. That's how I think.
Yeah,
I
think
know.
that.
I didn't
I
know
love
that.
meditating.
I didn't know that. But
Yeah.
I can tell you now.
Yeah.
It is super beneficial. If you're a
Is
person
it?
who has anxiety or you get overwhelmed, if I go and put on like some really calm music and just sit and like just breathe for even 5 minutes.
Seriously.
It doesn't have to be like this corny weird thing. Like I'll just sit. It's kind of like taking a nap, but you're awake.
Yeah, it's
That's how I
exactly what it
describe
is.
But your mind gets a rest.
It quiets. It quiets the brain, because I think that you have a
Yeah,
loud
you're not
voice.
like floating in the air like Aladdin and like.
That's what I think.
That's what
just
you're
me.
picturing.
That's me.
What is that? Is that like a guy thing? Because we're so
all
like
do.
open to that stuff, and guys are so resistant to like that stuff. It's so
Some
funny.
of that probably is guy stuff, but I don't know. Some of it's also just like, it sounds like a weird thing if you don't. A lot of people just don't have, I think, knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Like I never ever wanted to go to therapy. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, I'm not gonna sit in a room, get all emotional with this person that I don't even know.
Right.
But sometimes
A stranger's great. Sometimes a stranger.
Sometimes it's good because there's something that you wouldn't say to someone that you know or you can't.
because they
or-
judge you.
Yeah. Or it's just like you're not able to get it. It's just like even in relationships and stuff, an outsider's opinion of someone who doesn't know you can see something clearer.
Right.
That's why if one of your friends is going through a nasty breakup and they're telling you what's happening, you're like, this is so clear that this is right or this is right. When you're in something, your emotions are different.
Right.
Because you're in it.
Yeah.
You can't see, you're blind. Emotions can be very blinding. And one thing that I really started to learn was a lot of times people we're always trying to get rid of our emotions. We're like, I want to get rid of my anger. I want to get rid of my fear. I want to get rid of my anxiety and all these things. But what I've started learning from therapy and just my life in general is those are all like very valuable emotions that you should have them. Like anxiety, the way it was described to me, is like a smoke alarm. It's like, hey, just letting you know, like something's not right inside you right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
I'm not saying you should love anxiety, but that is your body warning you about something. Like fear, you should have fear because fear teaches you to make the right decisions. When you're a kid and you touch a stove, next time you see a stove, you're going to be like, maybe I shouldn't touch that because it could be hot.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good fear to have. But then fear can also, like anything in life, you can have too much of something. You have
Like
too much
flying
fear.
for me.
Yeah.
And so when you did that video on the plane, I was like,
Yeah, except that plane was just parked
I
on
know
the
it was
cement,
parked on the
so-
cement. But in my head, I was like, oh no. I would need a happy pill to get on that plane, as he knows. Buck
Right
knows
away.
that. Yeah, right
Right
away.
away.
It's interesting how you kind of see yourself going from mansion to therapy session and now Perception. It's really interesting to see how you've progressed. When you listen to Mansion, do you still love all the songs? Like Wait is one of my favorite songs that you've done. I don't know why I love that song so much, but
I think Mansion's cool. The only thing I would say about it is I was still experimenting with my sound. So there's songs like Turn the Music Up that I would never do again.
Right. It's completely
So,
weird.
but I would still say I like the album. I just think I think I was finding my sound in that album because you had songs like Intro and Mansion.
Yep.
Wait, I thought that was a great one.
I love that song.
So there's a lot of songs I liked. Also songs I was like, I would never do something like that again, but I was just trying something.
What are you trying to do in the future on your next project? Like the best is yet to come. What's the best for you? What are you trying to?
Just work on like my lyrical ability, really, just like
You're
expanding.
fast. You're fast, dude.
Thank you.
It's really hard for me to follow. I love when the lyrics are on YouTube because I can't. Sometimes I can't
Well,
follow.
trying
You're
to
very
say
fast.
something and being fast at the same time is really hard.
A lot of people are fast and aren't saying anything.
Yeah, Logic too. Logic's fast.
Yeah, a lot of people. It's hard to like actually, if you read back fast lyrics, you're kind of like, what are you even saying? You know. But that's the hardest part, honestly, for me. Is like I want to try to make music that still has a lot of content, but isn't too. That's the struggle that happens. Is you're writing so many words. You don't want to be repetitive.
Yeah.
But I'm also writing personal music.
Yeah.
But I don't want to just always have depressing music, but also if I'm still experiencing something. Like my next album is definitely going to talk about life and talk about
and marriage
where
or whatever.
I've come from,
yeah.
like from this place to that place, or things I'm still growing in or not.
But that's what your
growing
fans
in.
want from you,
Yeah.
I think. I don't think they want just...
Has anyone reached out to you that you never thought would reach out to you? Or just text you and said, great job, I listened to you?
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I could say to that is like, I think all of this is something that's like crazy to think about. Like even this moment right now on this tour right now, I'm on tour with Logic.
Mm-hmm.
He's like one of the biggest rappers out right now. Like,
and he has content too.
I'm being paid to do what I love. That's a crazy moment for me. Like sometimes it's so easy. One thing I loved was what was that documentary that Logic did? A bunch of people did.
Oh yeah,
on
it was Netflix. So good. Yeah.
I loved that. I remember hitting him up afterwards because I related to a lot of stuff he was saying. But the emotion at the end when he was kind of like breaking down, because he just like realized in that moment in the interview, like, look what's happening right now.
Right.
Like, this is crazy. That's something that I'm trying to work on and do as well, because I'm constantly like in this business. It's like work. That's what you have to do. But a lot of times you like don't even realize what's going on.
Come to think of it, like Eminem kind of inspired him, right?
Yeah.
Eminem knows who you are right now. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Well, I
Eminem
don't know
knows.
that.
Oh, of course he does.
He knows who you are.
Yeah.
Of course, but the thing is like, I hate comparing you to Eminem, but like when he did Rehab and he did Relapse and stuff, you knew where he was in those albums, and I feel like that's you, because I kind of feel like I know where you're at in an album, and
I think that's why people love it, because they're watching. It's kind of like, it feels like a movie almost. You're literally watching like a documentary of like this person, but it's in music form that you can listen to, and so it's like.
I'm so amused that he doesn't think that Eminem knows who he is. Like, I'm kind of amused by that.
I guess I didn't really think about it like that. I'm sure he has like heard of my stuff, but I guess I don't know. Sometimes I don't really think about that kind
People
of stuff.
who listen
much.
to you or who are fans?
Or like famous people that listen to it or whatever.
Right.
Just
but
because
they do, and they hit you up on your Twitter or Instagram, or you've had famous
Yeah.
people hit you up.
Yeah.
That's great. You're doing a great job.
Yeah,
man.
I'm so
Thank you.
excited that you're
Doing a
on
great
with
job.
Logic. I mean, I feel you guys have a real compelling story. Like, he had a terrible childhood, so did you, or struggling with it, and I think that he's come so far. We've known him for so long, and he's just exploded,
It's
sort of
awesome.
like how you are. So
Sounds good.
I feel like it's good that you have someone that you can talk to about it.
Awesome.
Great job.
Appreciate
I like how you're staying humble. You're doing your job, and you don't have a crazy rider. You got M&M's over there.
Kind bars.
Yeah, I like that. And
Your
some
fiance
bananas,
would
some
be
bananas.
happy about that.
I've seen some riders
she-
that have been crazy lately.
She wouldn't like the kind bars?
She wouldn't like the Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah, no, she wouldn't. She wouldn't like the Sour Patch Kids. She's way too healthy.
And thanks for talking to us.
Thank you
man.
guys
We
so
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and congratulations on all your